You should have served
This is Daf Yomi moment.
Yeah, it is. Good evening. Hope all of you are well. We are learning Maseches Chagigah Daf Dalit. We're 7 lines down or so at the 2 dots where it says V'tumtum v'androgonus. And we've been speaking about the korbanos of the Olas Re'iyah and the Shalmei Chagigah. Let's learn some of the exclusions to these rules. Our Mishnah said V'tumtum v'androgonus, that they were excluded. How do we know that this is true? Well, the pasuk says Zechuracha, and let's break up the word Zechuracha into pieces. Tana Rabbanan Zechur, Lahotzi es Hanashim, to exclude women, and Zechuracha with the Chaf Sofis, that's Lahotzi Tumtum v'androgonus, to exclude someone who's a Tumtum. We cannot identify their anatomy. We don't know if they're male or female. V'androgonus, where they have both anatomies, parts of both anatomies, and that's what the Gemara says. And what is kol Zechuracha? I mean, kol is an inclusionary word. What does kol come to include? The Rabbah says aktanim, to include children. And the Gemara is going to parse out each of these halachos because none of them really make sense on their face. Amar Mar, we had learned Zachor Lahotzias Hanashim, to exclude women. Why do we have to exclude women? Halam alikra. I don't need any psukim for this. We know a basic din throughout Shas, clearly halacha l'maisa michti. Let's analyze. Mitzvah saseh shazman gramahu. The mitzvah of olas re'iyah, of the seeing the Beis Hamikdash, is a mitzvah saseh shazman grama. The chol mitzvah saseh shazman grama nashim pturos. So you have a pasuk that you're saying is a gzeira doraisa, a drasha doraisa, right? Where we're taking up real estate in drasha to exclude women. We already know that they're exempt. Says the Gemara, not so simple in this case. Itzrich, we really actually do need a specific pasuk to exclude women. Why? Because sal kadaita chamina neila fre'iyah re'iyah mehakel. Maybe we would have said that just like by hakel, the pasuk was explicit that it includes women, anashim, nashim, v'taf, and we have a gzeira shav of re'iyah from there to olas re'iyah. Therefore, malahal nashim chayavas avkan nashim chayavas. I might have thought that just like by hakel, a woman is obligated in that mitzvah, then a woman is obligated here as well by the re'iyah. Says the Gemara, Kamash Malan, comes this second pasuk to exclude the women from this particular mitzvah of seeing the Beis Hamikdash. Good, third of the way down. Amar Mar, what is the churacha? We had said the extra chaf sofis was lahotzi tumtum v'androgonus. Let's try to understand this halacha. Bishlam androgonus itzrich. I understand if someone is suffering from androgyny, they have both anatomies, male and female. I understand why the Torah had to bring a specific exclusion to this type of person. I might have thought, well, look, he's got both anatomies, and if part of his anatomy is male, so therefore he should be chayev in re'iyah. Says the Gemara, since he has that tzad zachras lechayev kamash malan, and here's important language, the beria bifnei atzma. You know, like now we like sign up forms. Are you male, female, or other? This is real. There's another anatomy. There's another gender, and it's called androgyny. It's called androgynous in halacha. This person is not a man or a woman. She is its own beria. What?
So I saw a form the other day, male or female at birth. What do you check?
This person would not have a box to check.
Check both.
This person, yeah, you can. That would be a great way to solve the problem. Very efficient on the, but it can't be a Dropbox. Then you need like a multi-select feature in the form. That's absolutely right. But the Gemara identifies now. This is the third version of gender. Again, we're speaking loosely, but male, female, and androgyny, beria chadasha. It's a beria bifnei atzma. So we understand why the Gemara had to exclude the case of androgynous, because we might have thought that since there's a tzad zachris, it's actually included in the mitzvah of re'iyah, and it's not. However, ela tumtum, but when it comes to a tumtum who all we know is that they're able to urinate, that's all we know, but we don't know really what the anatomy is. So says the Gemara, that's a sveikahu. That there is no tzad zachrus in tumtum. There's nothing. We don't have anything. So mi itzrich kra lemuute sveika. If the whole anatomy of a tumtum is that we don't know, then I don't need a pasuk to exclude the person that I don't know. I just don't know. So they're excluded by their nature. I don't need anything else. I don't need an exclusionary pasuk. Amar Abaye, this type of person is unique. This type of person has only one thing showing, and that is Amar Abaye, he does have elements, not full male anatomy, but only the testicles are showing, but there is no aver at all. So therefore, the Gemara was confused. Is this a tumtum? Is it not? For this, the pasuk needed to be excluding this particular person. They have no aver. All they have are beitzim, and that's it. We don't know anything else. So therefore, the pasuk came to exclude that person. But you're right. Seemingly, you're right that the actual case Oh, a tumtum does not need a pasuk. If that person was born with no distinct anatomies, only the capacity to urinate, and that's it, but we don't know male, female, we have no idea. So then the Gemara says that person's automatically excluded. Only when we have a uniqueness of the tumtum that the Beitzim are showing, then we need an exclusionary pasuk.
So it doesn't matter if the Beitzim are showing it can still be female?
No, doesn't make them female. It just means that the pasuk's excluding them from this mitzvah of Yereh Kol Zechurcha. They're just exempt from going to the Beis HaMikdash. A person's born in the hospital and they have either an indistinct, that we don't know what they are, there's nothing, or there's no aver directly, but there are beitzim, so then that person is exempt from the pasuk. Those people have no mitzvah riyah, none. They're their own genders, as it were. A tumtum, like
they don't get to check off. They haven't quite reached the threshold checking off the box.
yeah. Even though beitzim are very distinct in gender,
Right.
but afal pikein, but we don't consider a male unless he has both clarity of anatomy. I told you this myself, my colleague. I told this to you. He had a crazy mindset, but that wasn't this. That wasn't really tumtum. It was the baby was so fat they couldn't see the aver. That happens. It's a clinical case. It's called buried or concealed penis. It's a real thing. Babies are born. You can't see. A very difficult bris, by the way. Just FYI. Very difficult. So those sometimes I refer them to like luries because they require a lot more work. But anyways, we'll talk about that later. Says the Gemara halfway down. Omar Mar, let's continue analyzing the brisa with which we started. Omar Mar, kol zechurcha l'rabos esaktanim. Already bells should be going off. What is going? You guys are tzaddikim gemurim. Every last one of this is unbelievable. Says the Gemara, I don't understand. How is it that we have a pasuk in Chumash that's mechayev a katan in anything? A katan is a katan. He's not a bar chiyuva. V'hatnan, who's mechayev shot of a katan? We already excluded him. Amar Abaye lo kasha. No, don't worry. Kan b'katan shegi l'chinuch. Kan b'katan shelo yegi l'chinuch. So what? It's all derabanan. They're all children. Even if they're yegi l'chinuch, it's all children. What did I just made a bracha? Baruch Shem Tarani Me'anosh. He's a kid. He's a kid. So it says the Gemara, katan shegi l'chinuch derabanan he. What is the whole drasha? First, we have chereshot of a katan, and then on top of that, we have a kol zechurcha. The Rabbo says saktanim. No, they're children. Says the Gemara in Achanami. You're absolutely right. There is no din de oraisa of yereh kol zechurcha by a katan ukra smachta be'alma. So we have the same pasuk. The brisa presents multiple drushas. All the drushas are doraisa except for this one. The one about the katan is specifically derabanan, and the psukim are just an asmachta ba'alma. They are just a reference, and they're not actually doraisa. Oh, good. Well, if that's true, then it frees up a pasuk. Ve'alakra lamai asa. Well, we had said in regards to a child that the word kol in the pasuk yereh kol zechuracha, that kol was to include a child. But if it's not deoraisa, then we still have the room to include another case. What's that new case we're including? So it says the Gemara 3 lines before the wide lines. L'kidei acherim. It's to match up and align with the shita of acherim. Let's see what their shita is. The Tanya acherim omrim hamekametz v'hamitzaref nechoshes v'haborsi p'tur min hariyah. These people, their jobs, they smell terrible. Mekametz is a person who actually not a wonderful job. Their job is to collect animal droppings, dog droppings. It was used in the tanning process. If you've ever been into a tannery, they don't smell very good, probably not because of this, but back in the day, that is one of the things that they used. People who were dealing with metals, borsi and leather tanners, they're kol zechuracha. They're exempt because it says kol. What is our question right now?
Why can't they take them back?
Kol is a
Kol is a ribuy. What did we say about a katan? We had said about a katan that he was included because of the word kol. And now the brisa reverses the mode of the word kol and says, no, it's not inclusionary anymore. Kol is to exclude. Fascinating. The Gemara does not deal with this. I'm just saying the Gemara doesn't deal with it. But that is how this brisa of acherim uses the word kol. Kol is now excluded. What does it say? Kol zechurcha? Kol she yachol. Here's how the spin a little bit. The Gemara answers. First long line.
It's the word itself.
Kol misha yachol lalos im kol zechurcha. It's like a funny little twist. That's what it says. Is that really the word kol says anyone who can go with those who should. Yotzu elu she'enan ru'in la'alos in kol zechurcha. These people can't. They smell so bad. No one can be around them. So they're exempt.
That was what my question was. I wasn't responding to you. I was asking my own.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to. Yeah, that's also a good question. Take a shower, get some Febreze. Yeah, we don't know what the chiyuv is on their side. That's true. The Gemara doesn't deal with it at all. I'm sure the Rishonim asked you a question.
All day, every day.
These were odors that couldn't be gotten away.
I mean, they're-
they would go. There's no solution.
Maybe. I don't know. When they say you sit in tomato, whatever, when you get sprayed by a skunk,
No, but like a mechanic too, their hands, no matter what.
They
do,
never
they're
get
always
clean.
black.
Their hands are always black. Yeah.
It doesn't really stink.
No, he's just giving right. But if right, like you're saying, like someone's clothes, you have a smoker, shower, take them to the cleaners, you're gonna smell like smoke. You can't get it out of the clothes, Okay, fine. So the answer to your question is I don't know, but if I had to ponder a guess, I'd say that there is a threshold in halacha that after, let's say, some degree of effort would probably need to be put in order to make sure that you don't smell bad enough. Let's dig into the next part of the Mishnah. We had said Nashim ve'avadim she'ena mishuchrarim v'chule, that they're exempt. Okay, Bishlam Nashim Kedamran, we said we know why we have to include women into the Mishnah to exclude them from this mitzvah because we were afraid of the possible misunderstanding of Hakel, because by Hakel women were included, and we had Gzeru Shava between Hakel and Yerechel Zechurcha. We were afraid about that, so we had the pasuk to exclude them, and our Mishnah to mention that pasuk. Ela avadim minaman. Tell me about avadim, says the Gemara. Why are they excluded? Amar Rav Huna, Amar Kra, because the pasuk says El Pnei Ha'adon Hashem. So when it says that the people who have to come before the Master Hashem, Misha Eino Ela Adon Echad, the only people who are chayiv in Yerechel Zechurcha are people who only have one master, capital M. However, this guy also has a lowercase m. He has a human being master. Halama likra, says the Gemara. Wait a second. I need a pasuk for that. Michti. Kol mitzvah she'isha chayaves ba eved chayav. Kol mitzvah she'eno isha chayaves ba eno eved chayav. The Gemara la lami isha. We know famously that the halachos of an eved is that they are the same as a woman. And if that brisa makes the equation that an eved is equal to a woman, and we know the halachos of a woman as we clearly stipulated above multiple times over from Hakel, so then why is it that we would assume that an eved is chayiv in the first place? Why bother putting him in the Mishnah? He is the same din as an isha. Leave it out. So says the Gemara, 8 lines from the bottom, 7 lines from the bottom. Ravina, Ravina, no. Lo nitzracha ela lemisha chetzu eved b'chetzu ben chorim. We discussed this a few days ago. That really, we're not talking about a full-fledged eved, because correct, the equation is that A equals B, and if an isha is equal to an eved, and if an isha has the din that she's psura from the Yerechel Zechurcha, then for sure an eved has one. We must be talking about a case where the eved is half owned by one, half owned by the other, and therefore half free and half eved. And dekanami, this is actually mashma in the brisa. How so? Diktani, what does it say? Nashim, it's actually in our Mishnah, not in a brisa. Diktani, Nashim ve'avadim she'enim mishuchrarim. And here the Gemara is picking up on the language of avadim she'enim mishuchrarim. What does the Gemara say? Misha enim mishuchrarim. What does it mean, enim mishuchrarim? What does that mean? What kind of eved are we describing? If we're talking about a regular eved who's not free at all, listen to avadim stama, then the Mishnah shouldn't have said avadim she'enim mishuchrarim. Just say avadim like a regular eved. Obviously, we're not talking about a regular eved. What are we talking about? El alav, it must be she'enim mishuchrarim legam, right? They're only partially. What's that? Umayninu, it must be mishachetzu eved b'chetzu ben chorin shma mina. That the reason why we had to include the case of avadim in our Mishnah, you're right, a full-fledged eved is absolutely similar to a Mishnah, and it would have then been extraneous to just say avadim stam. But to include a case of a half eved who's half free, that is definitely an unknown case, and therefore our Mishnah states it to exclude them from the mitzvah. What about ve'achiger, ve'asuma, ve'achola, ve'azakim? You've learned some of these halachos in previous blot. Ve'achiger, someone who's injured. Ve'asuma, someone who's blind. Ve'achola, someone who's ill. Ve'azakin. All of these are included in our Mishnah. Tani Rabbanan. What are some of the drushes? We've learned some of this already. A regalim, prat leba'alei kabin. We said that people who don't have a leg, they're wearing prosthetics. So that person is exempt, even though they could walk perfectly. Yeah, in the Paralympics, you have people who are double prosthetics. They're double amputees, and they're running faster than any of us could run on our healthy legs by a good 10 miles an hour. For sure, and they can be healthier than we are. Great, lemaisa they're patur. It's an inherent patur. You need raglaim, you need legs. That's the Gemara says. Davar acher, another drasha is raglaim. Prat lechiger lechola l'suma l'zaken l'she'eno yachol lalos beragla. So except for someone who's injured and ill, someone who's blind, and someone who's old. Yet this brisa adds in l'she'eno yachol lalos beragla. What are you including? We already discussed the cases of that, people who can't walk. So says the Gemara, what are you adding with that? So says the Gemara, that sounds extraneous. What are you adding? Rava, you're talking about someone who's a mefunak. He's very sensitive. Sensitive to what? Rashi says, top of Dalet Beis. They can't walk. They can't walk barefoot. It's like the people like you go into the mikvah on Erev Shabbos, and like most people don't wear sandals. There's that one guy, he like steps from the towel into his flip-flop. That guy, that's this guy. He's a mefunach. And what he doesn't want to do is he doesn't want to walk barefoot. The problem is, says Rashi, you're not allowed to go into the Beis HaMikdash with your shoes on. The Kohanim, for sure, it's chatzitza by the ground, even though they were never cold, all the nisim, all the blood, whatever, was fine. So this guy's a mefunach. So he's exempt also. That's what the Gemara meant to say. When it had the extra language of Sheni Yachalalos Baraglo, it was to continue to add into the exclusions. This case of the guy, I have to wear shoes. Otherwise, it's not right. Otherwise, that guy can't go in. I'm not willing. What a crazy exclusion. No, make the guy take off his shoes. Says the Gemara, there's a mefunach. He's patur from the mitzvah. Is that crazy? I don't know. It sounds crazy. I'm a mefunach. I can't wear, I have sensory issues. I can't wear tefillin. How far does this go? It's a very strange thing. Okay, says the Gemara. What? Yep, says the Gemara. You got to let me skip it before you correct me. I know you're my correction guy, and I'm glad you're here, but let me mess up first. Yeah. No, I was good. I was doing good so far. So just wait for me. So I do one a day usually. So I should at least skip the hard parts if I'm going to skip them. This one is already a pasuk. D'chsiv, how do we know that there's such an idea of being barefoot in the Beis HaMikdash? Because the pasuk says, "Ki savol deros panai." When you come to see me, mi vikesh zos miedchem ramos chatzerai. You're not going to trample barefoot. You're not going to not trample barefoot. You have to be touching the ground with your bare feet. And now we're going to learn a din of an orel and a tameh. Tana orel ve'atameh. So what about these people? They're patur min hariyah. You have an orel, and there's a machak here in the Rishonim. Do we say an orel is a person who is negligent, a person who opted specifically, I'm not going to get a bris, or they had a bad bris, and like this happens sometimes where I inform a father of a baby that his bris wasn't kosher. It just comes up in conversation, and then they have to then decide. I made it worse for them. It might be mutav shu shogig and valtu mazidin. Once I raise the topic with them, you really need a poke. You really need a hatafas down bris, and they're like, no, I'm okay. Did I make it worse? Are they more of a mazid now than they were a shogig without me telling them? I don't know the answer to that, and I don't bring it up in order to stir the pot, but if it does come up and I feel like there's a Pesach to share, great. I've done father-son bris the same day, where I do the baby, or really the father should come first because there's his chiyuv started earlier. So I did this at a bris in Iowa. The father found out when I got there that his bris wasn't kosher, hopped into the bathroom, went outside, did his son's bris. It's unbelievable.
Did you have to dunk in the mikvah?
No, he's a yid. He's a yid. It's not gerus. He's a yid. Just he didn't have a bris. He wasn't malt. He had a bris on day 2.
You don't make a bracha on that?
No brachas on a tafas tam bris. So machlokas in the Rishonim, and that generates a suffix brachos of the chiyuv in the first place of a tafas tam bris. So the Gemara says by an orel that he and a tamei are patur min hariyah. Bishlam tamei, I understand a tamei. Of course, he's going to be patur from going to the Beis HaMikdash. D'chsiv uvasa shama ve'vesem shama. Kol sheyeshno b'viyah yeshno be'ava. If you're able to be there, then you have to bring a korban. If you can't show up, he's tamei. He can't show up. He's not allowed to walk into the building. Okay, so of course he's going to be exempt. Sometimes that happens. We learned about this in Pesachim. You're tamei. What are you supposed to do? Pesach sheni. You can't just show up whenever you want. If you're tamei, you're tamei. Ela orel minolan. An orel's not tamei. Okay, so says the Gemara, Hamani, this is the sheet of Rabbi Akiva. He has a din that an orel has a halachic status similar to that of a tamei d'tanya. Rabbi Akiva Omer ish rabos es ha'orel. Okay, that's very interesting in Lamdus. Like, how do we take an orel who's not tamei? He's tahor, but he can't walk into the Beis HaMikdash? Is that a din in the chisaron of the mitzvah? There are plenty of mitzvahs he might not have fulfilled. Let's say he didn't put on tefillin in his life because it's a mitzvah saseh shel Torah. So that's what requires a little bit. I mean, it's a gzer shava, but I'm just saying it's or it's a drasha.
The circumcision of a heart and then the circumcision of the orla is.
I mean, I think the Torah is kind of expounding from the idea of arelus, is that when a person has a physical need of something to be removed, there's also spiritual things that need to be removed as well. But that's not a din d'oraisa mitzvah saseh shel Torah. It's a good idea to be orla leiv, to remove the orla of the leiv for sure. Another brayso on a similar topic, 10 lines down. Tan Rabbanan Tame Pater Min Ariyah. Dechsiv Vasa Shama Vebesim Shama. Same exact drasha, just in another brayso. Kol Sheyeshno Bebia Yeshno Be'avav. Kol She'enu Bebia Eno Be'avav. That a person who's not allowed to walk into the Beis Hamikdash cannot bring a korban. That should be obvious, and a tummy is exempt. This brayso continues. Rabbi Yochanan ben Davai Omer Mishram Yehuda Suma Ba'achas Min Pater Min Ariyah. Person who's blind in one eye is not allowed. It's not allowed. He's pater from the midst of Riyah. Shneimar Yireh and Yera'eh. We learn it that way. Kederach Shabaliros Kach Baleros. The way that you should be seen is the way that you should be able to see. Ma Baliros B'Shtei Einav. Just like when you're going to see, you should see with two eyes. Afle Raos. You should be seen B'Shtei Einav with two eyes, and therefore Hashem's going to see you. You need to have two eyes. Two dots. From here until the end of the day today, we're going to be learning the following theme. We're going to be learning about psukim that made Amoraim cry. That's it, from here till the end. And we'll see, of course, some overlapping with today. Says the Gemara, the two dots, a little bit more than a third of the way down. Rav Huna, Kimati lahai kra, yireh yireh bachi. This pasuk that we just quoted, the one that reminded us about a summa, that he is a pater from the mitzvah of Riyah. Why did he cry? Omar, Evet sherabo mitzape lo liroso yisrachek mimenu. Because there's a case scenario where we are going to see our Rabbo, we're going to see a Kadosh Baruch Hu, when Hashem distances himself from us. And now we read the pasuk in a rhetorical tone. Kisavo liros panai mivikesh zos miyerchem ramos chatzerai. Who said you can trample my courtyard? A sign of Hashem not wanting us there. Next, Rav Huna kimatu lahai kra. When he saw this pasuk bachi, he would cry. What does the pasuk say? V'zavachta shalamim v'achalta sham. And it says that you should slaughter shlamim and eat them there. Evet sherabo mitzape lechol al shulchano yisrachek mimenu. You're supposed to eat at the person's house. In this case, you're supposed to eat at Hashem's house, and you've been rejected from the house. Tichsiv lama li rov zivchechem yomar Hashem. Hashem says, I don't want all, of course, we know this is obviously a reference to bad times, not good times. First long line. I don't want all of your korbanos. And therefore he cried when he saw this pasuk. Next, Rabbi Elazar, Kimati lahai krabachi. When he saw this pasuk, he would cry. The story from Yosef. The dramatic presentation of Yosef to his brothers when he basically couldn't hold back his emotions anymore. And he said, Ani Yosef ha'od avichai. And then everything clicked for the brothers. And says the Gemara, just like the musar, when everything really gets clear to you that you've done something very wrong, that's the pain that someone's going to feel. All the more so, how much we should feel this trepidation, this despair almost in the tochacha of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So he'd cry. Rabbi Elazar again, same Rabbi Elazar. Kimati lahai krabachi, cry about another pasuk as well. The pasuk says, "Vayomer Shmuel el Shaul, lama hir gastani laha'alososi." This is a well-known story where Shaul didn't know what to do in regards to a war, and he found some type of sorcerer who practiced necromancy, bringing up the dead, and he summoned Shmuel from the dead. So Shmuel said, "Lama hir gastani laha'alososi." Why are you bothering me? I'm resting. And we know that Shmuel, we'll see how we know that Shmuel HaTzadik was worried about maybe he was being called back to din in Shamayim. All the more so us. If Shmuel was nervous about din, we should be concerned. So it says the Gemara, what was the story? Shmuel, Maihai, what was Shmuel's concern about din? So the Gemara tells us a beautiful diuk in the pasuk. The pasuk says, the woman who was bringing Shmuel back, bringing his spirit back again, above our pay grade, when she was bringing him back, it says, Elohim ra'isi olim. Elohim in this case doesn't mean God. It also doesn't mean what it otherwise normally means, which is bezdin, right? And here it means great people. But the pasuk also has a plural of ra'isi olim. Who did she try to summon? Shmuel. Who ended up coming back? Olim plural. So olim trei mashma, chad Shmuel. That's number one. Who is the person that Shmuel summoned along with him? So the other one, the Azal Shmuel va'asi leMoshe b'adei. He went over and he's like, listen, Moshe, I need you. Please come with me. Amar le, he said to Moshe, Dil machas v'shalom ladina mispa'ina. I'm afraid that maybe there's some halachic issue that I didn't keep properly. Kum behadoi, deleka milsa dechasavta beoraisa delo kiyamte. I need you to come with me to highlight the fact that the halachos that were written in the Torah, they were all kept perfectly. And that's the end of that story. And what we saw from there, again, that musar is if Shmuel was nervous about standing in front of a Kadosh Baruch Hu bedin, I think with the Arida Sadoros, we have what to be concerned about. We're not all tzaddikim. We would like to be, but we're not. 3/4 of the way down, halfway through the wide lines. Rabbi Ami kimata lahai kra bachi. When he got to this pasuk, he would cry. Yitain be'afar pihu layish tikva. Even with our mouths in the dirt, we're so humble. Ulayish tikva. Maybe there is going to be hope. Omar kulei hai ve'ulai. You're going to do all of this, and it's still only a ve'ulai. That's what the pasuk said. Ulai yesh tikva. Only maybe will there be hope. So the Gemara says all of this, and I'm not even certain of the result. It's still ulai. Very, very difficult. Ravami, similarly, kimati lahai krabachi, he cried about this as well. Bikshu tzedek, bikshu anava. If you're going to seek out tzedek, righteousness, and seek out humility, ulai tistru b'yom af Hashem. Maybe all will be well. We can reduce the anger of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the same thing, Amar Kula Hai ve'ulai. Here too, the pasuk says ulai. Only maybe can we quiet the anger of Hashem. And it's a lot of investment. You're going to become a big tzaddik. You're going to try and work on your humility. And it's only a maybe. Next 8 lines from the bottom. Ravasi kimati lahai kra bachi. He would cry, Sinu rav ehu tov. You're supposed to hate evil. You're supposed to love good. Behetzigu b'shar mishpat. And you're supposed to present yourself in the gate of justice. Nisulai yichanin Hashem. And only maybe Hashem will be gracious to us. Elokei tzivakos. And again, the same exact rhetorical question. Kule hai ve'ulai. This, but it's not even necessarily enough. I've done everything right. You asked me to hate this group and I did it. You asked me to love that group and I did. But still, we don't know if it's sufficient. Last one for the day, but it will actually take us until about 10 lines down on Daf Hamid Aleph. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yosef, Kimati lahai krabachi. When Rabbi Yosef got to this pasuk, he would cry. The pasuk says, V'yesh nispe v'lo mishpat. There are those who could be gathered up, those who can die without proper judgment, meaning that they may die even though they didn't deserve it. Omar, mi'ika de'azil below zmane. Is there such a scenario where a person can die before their time? Says the Gemara yes, in fact, there is unfortunately a scenario like that. Kihad Rabbi bar Abaye, just like the story of Rabbi bar Abaye, have a shchiach kabe malach hamavis. He and the malach hamavis, they used to shmooze. You know, it's like the guys in shul. So he and the malach hamavis used to be friends. Amar le the shluche, and the malach hamavis had said to his messenger, Zil, listen carefully, everyone. This is an awesome Gemara, and you're going to remember it. I see Lee Miriam Magdala. Fascinating. Go get me Miriam Magdalene, or Mary Magdalene, as she's referred to in the common parlance. Take a look at Tosfos. Wow, bottom Tosfos. The Misaper Ma She'ira Lo Kfar the Hai Uvda de Miriam Magdala Nisia. But she lived during the times of Bai Sheni Haisa Taisa Imo Shel Ploni. Not all the Gemaras were censored, apparently, because this one, at least the Tosfos, are super clear. Yeshu had a mom. I know that's not surprising for us, but it might be surprising for some other people. In some circles, this would not go over very well. These were some of the conversations I shared this many years ago. A year ago, came out this week, I think a year ago, this guy tried to sell me on Judaism, on Christianity, the Judeo-Christian values. And he told me, Mary, she never had intercourse before she was a basula. I said, Mehechates, he gave me a pasuk. He literally quoted chapter and verse. I said, and I pulled it up on my phone. I'm like, the word that you're quoting to be a virgin is not what the word means. You don't speak Hebrew. The word was not basula, which is what we know to be. And the word basula is in Tanakh, or lo yada'o. We have our language. We have something. The word was alma. Look throughout all, King James, whatever. Look throughout all of Shas, everywhere. The word alma just means a young girl. Tashma Shavita or not, it just means she's a young girl. It's an age bracket. But
It is a word in the Torah.
of course. Yeah, we have it in multiple. I'm just saying that we have our language for it, and it's not alma. And alma means a young woman. So he's like, well, I believe in my translation. I'm like, yeah, but you don't speak Hebrew. So you got to look at it in the original text. You can't tell me that you know what you're talking about until you know the original text. Until then, lack of academic integrity. Thank you for your concern. Anyways, the Malach HaMaves says, please go get me Mary Magdalene. Seyar Nesiya. She's the one who does the hair. That's what Rashi says here, that she, I think it's Rashi here. Yeah, Rashi says 5 lines from the bottom, 6 lines. I see the Mary. Oh, come on, David.
No,
That's the next line. That's the next line. I didn't skip. David? Zil Aisili Mir Magdala Ser Nisia.
It's the next line.
You have the opposite. I'm on line 4 from the bottom. Line 4 from the bottom says Zil Aisili Miriam Magdala Ser Nisia. So Rashi says 5, 6.
You're right.
Rashi says 5, 6 times in the bottom. Harog es Miriam, kill her. Hamikalas Ser Nashim. She worked at Hairbase, circa 1992. So says the Gemara. Unfortunately, the messenger of the Malach HaMaves brought the wrong Mary. Says the Gemara, Azal Aisila Miriam Magdala Dardaki. There was another that the addresses got mixed up, and he picked up the school teacher, the Dardaki, the one who was taking care of the kids. She had a gun in her basement. Omar Lay, and he says, Anna, I asked you to get somebody else. Anna Miriam Magdala Ser Nisia Amrilach. You got the wrong person, wrong street, wrong number. You go get the other person. Amarle, Hadra, fine, I already took her life, but I'll go give it back. CPR. We're going to make sure she gets her life back. Everything's going to be fine. Amarle, no. Says the Malach HaMavis, Hoel ve'aisisa, lehabe leminyana. She can count for my needs for now. But that's not fair because she didn't deserve to die. The person who deserved to die was Miriam Magdala, the one who did the hair, not the one who was a childhood teacher. How is that allowed? How is it possible that someone who's undeserving to have a shortened life can have a shortened life? So says the Gemara. So because there was something going on with this particular woman, with the Dardiki one, Mary Magdalene, the childhood teacher, not the Mary Magdalene who was the one Yeshu's mother, the other one. So says the Gemara, what was going on in her life and the teacher? Havas Nikita mis'ara biyada. She was holding something flammable in her hand, or something, maybe it wasn't flammable, but like a tool to clean out an oven. Vahavas kashagra, and it was lit. Umachria tanura, and she was cleaning out the bottom. Rashi says, mechabedes esatanur. I just want to be clear. I don't understand everything I'm about to read. I understand the words, but okay, whatever. Let's just continue. Shkalte, and she had taken some things out, a piece of coal, v'anachta agaba dekar, and it fell on her foot, and kadcha, and she burned her foot. V'isra mazla, and then her mazel changed, or therefore her mazel changed, and then va'isisa. So what does that mean? It means that a person's mazel doesn't stay consistent, and seemingly once you're in a situation of bad mazel, so then you can snowball and things can become a little bit more complicated. So that's what Rashi has the same idea as well, that v'hura mazla, that when she burned herself, that her feet, that her mazel got worse. Amar le Rabbi Barabai, is l'chu reshusa lemevar hachi. You have permission to do that? Who made you in charge? You don't get to kill people just once, and you have to have rishus from a Kodesh Baruch Hu. Amar le, well, hey, wait 1 second. The Malach HaMavis says back to Rabbi Bar Abaye, or the Talmud Chacham. He quotes a pasuk we started with a couple lines ago. The Yesh Nisbe Below Mishpat. The pasuk says, "Are there not, in fact, people who die that are outside of the realm of judgment? Really, they don't deserve to die." Amar Lev. But wait a second. Rabbi Bar Abaye says back to him, "Haksiv Dor Holich Dor Ba." Generations come and generations go. But the implication of this is that every generation has a fixed number of people and/or years in combination. You can't just take people. Everything's a cheshbon rab, and you're not the one holding the cheshbon. Omar, he says, Dar'ina luhu, I'm going to hold on to this neshama, or Dar'ina luhu, and I hold on to these neshamas that I take early, Adamalu luhu dar, until the generation ends. And then Vahadar mashlimna le'leduma, and then I give them over to Duma. Duma is one of the angels of death, again, beyond the pay grade. So Amar le, Rabbi Bar Abaye says back, yeah, it's nice that you waited, but still you took someone's years away from them. Amar le, sof, shaneha, my avadid, what did you do with them? So says the Gemara, Amar rabbanon, if there is a Talmud Chacham ma'avir b'milei who overlooks his words, what does that mean? Rashi, line 4, dibra maschal ma'avir b'milei ma'avir al midosav. If you are looking for a zchus to earn extra years, we should be ma'avir al midoseinu. Try and not get upset when things happen to us, because if we were to do that, the Gemara concludes, Mosifna lehu, he'll add the years to him, Mosifna lehu le v'havya chilufei, and that will be considered a swap for the years for she, in this case, she Miriam Magdala Dardiki, the classroom teacher who died early. Those years were then given to a Talmud Chacham, someone who's focused on learning, who was able to be Mavir al Midosa.
She would get benefit from the schools of the
It implies, I mean, that's not, yeah, but Havi Chilufei, that there will be a switch. No, he's saying the English of Chilufei. Havi Chilufei, they switch. So he lives, she gets.
The prematurely deceased will share in the merit and reward the scholar earns during those additional years.
Yeah.
So they really belong to him.
That's right. All right, we'll stop right here. Abosai, have a beautiful night.
Number 10 continue.